Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Weirdly Magical podcast with Lou. I'm on my own for this recording. Jen's probably going to do her own separate one for the full moon. And the reason is because of my travel. I am traveling to the UK tomorrow, the 11th. So I'm recording this nice and early on September the 10th. I'm recording it 2 whole weeks before the full moon because I will actually be away, or I'll be traveling back on the full moon from the UK. And Jen was not available today because she's away till tomorrow night. So we're having to break up and do it separately for this lunation, okay, because I'm not even going to try and do it while I'm in the UK visiting family. The time difference is too great, and scheduling will be difficult. So you have me alone. So I'm going to talk today about the Aries full moon coming up on September the 24th at 8:52 p.m. Mountain, which kind of freaked me out when I typed it because I was born at 8:52 a.m. but not Mountain. But it just, the number, I was like, whoa. And you'll see why else this kind of makes me go. And so that will be 7:52 p.m. Pacific, 10:52 p.m. Eastern, and 3:52 a.m. on the 25th. So I am literally traveling back under the energy of the full moon because we fly at 10 a.m. right after the full moon. So that's really interesting to me. Okay, so this full moon is at 1 degree and 59 minutes of Aries. And a full moon is an opposition. So that means the sun will be at 1 degree and 59 minutes of Libra. And the moon in Aries is conjunct Chiron, which is at 0 degrees and 2 minutes, about to move back into Pisces on this full moon, not long before it does. The sun on the opposite's end is conjunct Mercury and Ceres. So we have these 3 in Libra, and Ceres is the great mother, and Mercury is our perception and communication, is the mind. Chiron is the maverick shaman. So we have all those opposing each other. This full moon lunation, this opposition, is all squaring Saturn and Vesta. Saturn is at 2 degrees and 49 minutes of Capricorn, and Vesta, which is focus and commitment, is at 2 degrees and 9 minutes. And Saturn is also representative of commitment and diligence and building and determination. So there's a great deal of focus over there at 2 degrees of Capricorn. Add to all that, so we have a T-square there with the full moon and Saturn and Vesta at the 3rd point. Add to all this, the full moon is also aspecting the nodes, sextile to the south node in Aquarius, and that south node in Aquarius is at 4 degrees and conjunct Mars at almost 4 degrees, and sandwiched between true black moon Lilith at 0 Aquarius and mean black Lilith. That doesn't mean she's really mean, though she can be, at 5 degrees of Aquarius. And that is, of course, is forming an opposition to the north node. And this actually forms a mystic rectangle for this full moon. And finally, last but not least, also at 1 degree and quincunx to the sun and semi-sextile to the moon, we have Uranus over there in Taurus. So that's so much energy in the first 5 degrees of the signs, of cardinal signs and fixed signs. Okay, so if you have anything in the first 5 degrees of cardinal, which are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn, or fixed signs, which are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, then this is right on you. But really, because there's so much energy in those first 5 degrees, if you have any planets or angles in the first 5 degrees, then you are being majorly affected by this, pretty much no matter where you are. But mostly the cardinal and fixed signs, and mostly the cardinal first, then the fixed. Huge. Now, what do I see happening with this full moon? Well, so much to say. But let's start with the moon conjunct the maverick shaman, Chiron, right at the beginning of Aries. Aries is the sign of new beginnings. It's the first sign of the zodiac. I like to see Aries as really the toddler of the zodiac, just after birth, kind of walking around, and it's all about me, and I want what I want, and I want it now, and it's very direct. If you think about little toddlers, when they first start speaking, they say whatever comes out of their mouth. There's no kind of conditioning or filtering at that point. And there's the moon is our emotional body right at the start of this sign, next to Chiron, who is really the teacher and the healer of the zodiac. I'm a bit done, as I said in the last podcast, with the wounded healer thing. I prefer the maverick shaman thing, because Chiron, the centaur in the myth, was very different to his centaur brothers and sisters. And yes, he had the whole wound thing at the end where he healed Prometheus so to give up his immortality, so he wouldn't live with this wound forever. So he gave his immortality up so that he could die from his wound. So there is that sacrificial kind of energy to it. But most of all, Chiron likes to do things quite differently, and he is a healer and a teacher. And in this state, as he's about to go back into Pisces, he is right at the beginning of Aries, saying, come on, we're reviewing this. You've been reviewing who you are in these times of tremendous change as we move into a new paradigm. Okay, so that's those two together. Then opposing the sun, which is our core in Libra, and Mercury, the messenger of the gods, and Ceres, which is the great mother who represents unconditional love, acceptance, and grief and forgiveness, right over there in Libra, saying, come on, let's bring in some peace and harmony into this, okay, into our very core. And now remember that Venus rules Libra, and Venus on September the 24th is just about to go retrograde. She goes retrograde on October the 8th. So she's almost at a standstill on this full moon. And then I've already mentioned Saturn and Vesta over there in Capricorn. Capricorn is the rules we live by. It's our institutions. But it's also like the structures of our life, and, the walls we put up, the container of our life, of our rules. And Saturn in Capricorn is very ambitious. It's about building. It's about growth. But it's also about diligence and getting to work. And so Vesta is focus and commitment. She's the keeper of the flame. But I don't know if you've noticed already, we have Ceres, goddess, over there, but next to the sun and Mercury in a goddess-ruled sign. So there we have some goddess energy, and Vesta, goddess energy, next to the archetypal, really father figure of Father Time, Kronos, Saturn, over there in Capricorn. And then that little cluster over there with the South Node in Aquarius, Mars, who actually leaves his out of bounds state finally on this full moon. He goes back into declination, so into the declination that it means he's in bounds. And he's sandwiched next to the South Node, which is the dragon's tail, the releasing, and between the two black moon Liliths, the mean calculation and the true calculation. So he's in this Lilith corridor, and so is the South Node, of too muchness, saying, come on, get back into order. You know, Mars is the warrior. Mars is the ruler of Aries. So we're starting to bring things into order and renew things after this really crazy summer we've had. And believe me, as I record this, we've got this fixed Grand Cross coming up that I've been writing about in my articles, with Venus, Uranus, Mars, and the North Node. And Pallas Athena, I forgot she's in there too. So things have been a little bit crazy. Here we have all stuff at the start of the signs. Mostly it's in cardinal signs, which are initiating signs. Saturn is at the start of his own sign, so he likes to start building. Mars is coming back into shape in as he moves into inbound state, away from his rogue state that has been terrorizing us for weeks here. And we're being asked to really kind of bring everything in to healing. Now, a mystic rectangle is a beautiful, beautiful configuration, and it goes by what its name is, mystic. And of course, you know, it's so balanced. It has two oppositions, two trines, two sextiles, bringing it in to a lovely configuration of being able to bring things together. And then the outlet from all this lovely rectangle points to this Saturn and Vesta in Capricorn. And then we do have one other wriggle in this. We have that Uranus in Taurus at 1 degree. And Uranus is squaring. Uranus rules Aquarius. Okay, so that's important too. And he's in Taurus, which is also Venus ruled, like Libra, which I already mentioned. And Uranus in Taurus is squaring that Mars, Lilith, South Node combo. Also trine to the Saturn, Vesta combo, and in conjunct to Venus, Mercury, and Ceres over there in Libra. And he's the benevolent rebel. He's the revolutionary over there in Taurus. So overall, you know, there's so many new beginnings in this, and so much more. We've been seeing it every lunation for the last while. Kind of the divine feminine energy is kind of infiltrating the patriarchy. Now, Chiron is a male, but the moon is very female energy. It's our emotional body. So there's some emotional healing there in the sign of Aries, which is the god of war, Aries, saying, come on, you know, you can heal this. You don't have to fight everybody all the time. You fight for your right to be you. You don't have to fight everybody else. So I do want to look at the number one in numerology, because but I'm going to look at number 2 as well after this, because it's almost at 2 degrees, and we do have that Saturn and Vesta at 2 degrees. So 1 and 2 are both very important in this. So number 1 is the aspiration of humankind. It's what we hope to achieve. And so, Aries is new beginnings. It's about starting something new and achieving something new. But the number 1 represents God, human, the sun, and the heart in your physical body. From the 1, all things began. And this is from thedreamtime.com, okay? From the 1, all things began. The 1 is a masculine number, the aloneness, originality, and positivity. The element is fire, and from the 1, all things come. Okay, so historically, the 1 indicates being one with God, and it indicates the male phallus, okay, as well, really, and God the Father. So you get an idea what number 1 is. It's really kind of the divine male. And this, incidentally, is all happening in an 11 year where we have 2 1s, which, of course, is a gateway, a master number, number 11, but also 1 and 1 makes 2. And we also have the number 2, as I mentioned. So 2 is the duality of humankind. It's togetherness and what we hope to receive. It's feminine and symbolic of the moon. It represents the female and everything associated with female traits like emotion and change. Okay. And it's the element water. Okay, whereas 1 is fire. And it represents togetherness and emotions and partnership with others. All the feminine qualities, really. So here we have, in this new moon, we have a real mix, okay, of the masculine and feminine. We also have Saturn and Uranus aspected on this full moon, and they are the old and new rulers of Aquarius, because Aquarius is a strangely conservative sign, but also very futuristic. Okay, so we have those 2 in earth signs aspected by a trine, suggesting that we are beginning to really bring radical change here. Now let's look at the numbers. I'll probably go back to, the symbols. I'll probably go back to that mystic rectangle a little bit more in a minute, but just give me a second. I'm just going to get my, because I am going to read you a few symbols here. Just 4. Okay. Actually, let's talk about the mystic rectangle more. Okay, so as I said, it's oppositions, sextiles, and trines, and it's a really kind of beautiful aspect. So it's like a long box or rectangle, 2 long sides, 2 short ones, and diagonal lines drawn across the middle from the corners. So overall, with the mystic rectangle, it's a beneficial configuration where all the planets work together. It's a chance or an offering of inner harmony, but we do have to face the challenge of the 2 oppositions. And as a reminder, that is Chiron and the moon in one side, Sun, Mercury, and Ceres in the other side. Then the other opposition is between the North Node in Leo, which incidentally is ruled by the Sun, and Lilith, Mars, and the South Node in Aquarius. So we've got all that kind of angry energy over there in Aquarius. And in the North Node in Leo is asking us to follow our heart and live in joy. And to quote my lovely internet friend Nora Herald, to operate from joy, which kind of just means coming from a joyful place about everything, even when there's, shit happening in the world, you can still operate from a place of joy and see joy and find joy. And but that's not to make the Mars and Lilith anger and necessity for individuation in Aquarius wrong. I call it righteous anger this morning. You know, there is a lot of righteous anger about, and a lot of it is from the divine female. But if you think about it as well, over there in Aquarius, we actually have Lilith, who was the original woman in the Garden of Eden myth, next to Mars, who really is the original male. You could say he's Adam, if you like, because he is like the purest masculine energy in the chart. We have the two of them over there moving together and pointing towards this heart energy in Leo, and the North Node is our karmic potential and where we're going. And then we have the I in the we, and we've got themes of healing and forgiveness and unconditional love and acceptance and messages coming around that. So if we can integrate all that energy, bring it to center, and then bring it to the outlets, which are Saturn and Vesta in Capricorn, focus and commitment to build something better, and Uranus in Taurus to bring some radical change with how we do things. And incidentally, California has just voted to become completely renewable energy by a certain date. So things are changing. So I want to read, first of all, the Chandra symbols. I'm going to read the one for the actual moon, Aries 2, because we always go up. And I'm just going to answer my daughter. Tell her I'll be done in 2 seconds. So it's old stone steps descending into darkness, held back by barriers that are formidable. Up against yourself hard, you are shadow boxing with personal propensities for becoming swept away by the lower self. You take a perverse thrill in adopting the stance that is rebellious, angry, and distinctive. Why is this? Excuse me. Okay, I'm just saying yes. Driven by impulse to constellate the archetype of the one in trouble, of the outlaw, of the dark stranger, in love with the idea of being self-consciously different and running wild with it. Bursts and episodes, you get taken over and played through. This is adolescence in its most naked terms, but very hard to outgrow. The one who will not apologize, who does not change, convinced that being against is a strong position. A very easy character to project upon, for all of life is sensed as a continuous projection, and reality is up for grabs and hard to find. So this is kind of a warning, really, on this full moon, okay, that you know, not to be too stuck and not to be too raging against, because there is quite a lot of anger. So I'm just going to actually read the Sabian symbol, and then I'm going to have to go because I'm getting ready for this trip and I just had something come up. But so a comedian reveals human nature, the capacity to look objectively at oneself and others. And this is about the objectification, the objectivation of consciousness, okay? It's about really seeing oneself reflected as in the mirror, okay? So overall, I'm kind of saying we're being asked to look at ourselves, okay, in this. Now, if you want to find me anywhere else on the internet, and I'm sorry I had to cut this short, but my daughter got her time she starts work wrong and I have to take her. Oh, the joys of being an astrologer and an entrepreneur with teenagers. But you can find me at louiseeddington.com. Please come have a look at my thing. Find my page on Facebook, Louise Eddington Astrologer, or join my Facebook group, Planetary Magic Cafe. And I have a Venus retrograde class coming up, the Venus retrograde Heroine's Journey. So I will put the links to that on YouTube and places, and in my groups, and on Facebook on my page. So come join me. The first time I did it was the last Venus retrograde in Aries to Pisces. This one's very different, Scorpio to Libra, and it's going to be deep and huge. And if you would like some support, come join me. We'll be looking at your chart. We'll have a private Facebook group, and we'll have 7 calls on this to take you through the journey into your personal virtual vision quest. So for now, so much love.